I'm going to apologize in advance for the lighting. It is late, and I haven't had a Vita vlog come out, so we're doing one right now. But what's up, everybody? So, it seems like my previous vlog, or one of my previous vlogs, did really well when I reviewed Corey Kenshin's Monsters We Make, which I thought was really cool. It was fun to review something again, and I kind of want to do a review, but also just kind of tell a story from a book I read, because I read a book recently, and it scared the hell out of me, but not for the reasons you would think. So, I read this book called I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. And if you're probably thinking like, oh, is there like a pancreas monster? Is there like, you know, some kind of crazy thing where a guy goes around and eats people's pancreases? No. That wouldn't terrify me. Not the way this book terrified me. This book was actually recommended to me from a girl that works at Barnes & Noble. We randomly started chatting. She heard me talking to, this is going to sound weird. I was talking to a kid because we were in the manga section. And this kid was like picking up Chainsaw Man, and he was like talking to himself. He just reminded me of like, I used to talk to myself a lot when I was a kid. Hell, I talk to myself today still. But like he reminded me a lot of like just being a little nerdy kid when I was like a little nerdy kid. So I told him, I was like, you like Chainsaw Man? And he was like, yeah, man, I've been reading everything and blah, blah, blah. And he started like listing off a bunch of stuff that he's read and watched. And like he mentioned, he was like, yeah, I'm currently starting to watch Dragon Ball. And I'm like, oh! And I was just like, dude, that's my shit. And so like we started talking about Dragon Ball, and then he had to leave with his grandma. But this worker that was there overheard me talking, and she was like, dude, you should check out this app. And then we started talking about manga. And she was like, oh, if you want like a good slice of life kind of good story that might bring you some emotions, she recommended I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. And she didn't tell me anything about it. I didn't know anything going in. And, you know, I'm always down to read a good story. And this is a good story, for the most part. I will say, so basically, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, I think would be considered a slice of life thing, a slice of life story. It is essentially, I'm going to try not to say a lot of spoilers, but you know me, I do spoilers, so you've been warned. But essentially, the book involves a quiet kid that doesn't have any friends, that is totally cool being a loner, and essentially the popular girl. Stop me if you've heard this one before. But, and of course, the popular girl, for whatever reason, decides to befriend the quiet kid. And this story had a little bit of an interesting reason on why. It's not like they're childhood friends, or she's always had a secret crush on him, or anything like that. It was that, what we find out later in the story, or pretty early on in the story, is the reason why it's called I Want to Eat Your Pancreas is because the female character in the story has a pancreatic issue. I don't think they ever flat out say it's pancreatic cancer. I don't think they say that, but she has a bad pancreas. And so she basically knows she's going to die. And what she's doing is she's like keeping a journal of like just her personal thoughts. And the quiet kid, who, I don't know, I forget why he was in the hospital. Essentially, he ends up finding her journal and reading it. So what she thought was once private and going to be her private thoughts, he read them. So they have this weird friendship because he knows she is going to die, and like that she has this pancreatic issue, and now she has someone that she can actually talk to, because she doesn't want to worry other people, or she doesn't want people to like treat her differently or whatever, because she has this disease and she just wants to continue living life. And she knows she has like, of course, a best friend that is like weary of this guy, and you know, she doesn't want to worry her because she knows she would be worried and all that jazz. So that's how this friendship is, you know, brought together. The quiet kid who's like, I don't like anybody, I don't want to talk to anybody, and the bright shining girl who nobody knows has a problem, but they build this friendship. And essentially the whole story is, you know, kind of them, like her just kind of living out her last days with him and kind of being like, I want to do this. And it's like a bucket list story. That's basically what you can put it down to. And the character development comes from him, from getting out of his shell and learning that living life is worth it, and it's not all about being a sad kid in your room because you're not popular or whatever. Like, it's one of those stories, right? But there's like a little twist in here, and then obviously the reason that this story scared me. I'll talk about the things that I didn't like in a little bit, but essentially, it's a really good story. It's a good story of friendship, and you kind of know, like, they hit you with the ending pretty early, or they hit you like at the start of the story that she's dead, or she's gonna die, whatever. Like, that's kind of, because you don't ever know. Like, the stories will start off like this character died, but then like the twist could be like, ooh, she faked her death and she got better. They can always kind of hit you with that kind of thing. But for the most part, like, that's what they hit you with, and then you kind of find out like how it got to that situation. So like, reading this story and kind of reading that, I was just like, okay. But when I read this story, obviously, if you guys haven't seen any of the other Vita vlogs, you might not know this, but I have this little thing called health anxiety. And this book made me go on a deep dive about my pancreas. And when I started reading this book, I think your pancreas is right here. Maybe it could be over here, but I think it's like slightly around your under rib area. When I was reading this book and seeing this character go through like her life of knowing she's gonna die and having pancreatic issues, and like there's this one scene where the guy like really discovers, because they go on a trip together, and the guy discovers her bag full of drugs that she has to take to like survive day to day. And I don't know if it was that scene exactly, but like it's his realization, like, oh my God, this is real. She's going to die someday. And I was like, I think my pancreas is starting to hurt. Like, is that what it is? Like, what is, I was like, oh my God, I think I'm getting a pain in my back. Like, how does pancreatic stuff work? And I genuinely was starting to get fearful that I could have some pancreatic issue, because I was like, what if my body tingles and like my eyes hurting and all this stuff is actually like symptoms of a bad pancreas? And like my health anxiety started making me believe I was like this girl in the book. And it was funny because like you would think that, the book is telling you like live life to the fullest, whether you have a healthy body or, a non-healthy body. Like, you should take advantage of the time you have now. That's not the message my brain took. My brain was like, cancer, or, the disease. Like, I hate it. It sucks. It really does suck. And so I was like trying to get through this book, it being so anxious, and I really wanted to enjoy the story. But they're like halfway through the book, I like stopped reading it for a little bit, and I just started researching like, how can I make my pancreas more healthy? What do I need to avoid to make sure my pancreas is healthy? And I think while I was reading it, I told a friend of mine about this, and come to find out, she has an issue with her pancreas. And she told me, she was like, bro, she was like, if something with your pancreas happens, you're gonna know. Because I believe she had like an episode, or she had something where she was like, there are certain things with pancreases where your pancreas can like get a little bad or hurt or whatever, but it can heal or something. This is her words. She's the one that's lived it. But there are times when it's also can be like pretty bad or whatever. And so she was telling me about an episode she had where her pancreatitis or whatever she had exactly, I'm not too sure what she has, but her issue with her pancreas caused her a lot of pain, and she would have like back issues and like stuff like that because of the pain and all this crazy stuff. Again, her words. My friend has a lot of medical issues. And so like, but she was telling me, she was like, you'd know, bro. I'm just, if I can calm your nerves, you would know if something was going on, because you would, you wouldn't be able to just do the normal stuff. Like, if you feel like you can go about your day and be normal and you're not in like excruciating pain or anything like that, you're fine. And so there was a little bit of comfort there. And I did end up finishing the book. And I would recommend people read it. I don't think this is a book that's going to change your life in any way. My only flaw, like genuinely, this is the only flaw, and this is a spoiler, big spoiler coming up right here, is And this is a flaw that maybe a lot of people won't see, or a thing that a lot of people may not pick up on, but I pick up on it as a writer. And I will say, if you want to get into the arts and writing and like, movie making and all that jazz, and you start studying stuff, you start seeing a lot of stuff now, and it kind of ruins certain stories. And so sometimes I wish I could just be blissfully ignorant when it comes to like, storytelling mechanisms and all that jazz, but unfortunately I'm not, because I want to be somebody that still tells stories. But one thing they do in this book, and a lot of books do this, is they kind of foreshadow something that doesn't have any big problem, or it doesn't have any big, purpose in the book, right? Like, if they're like, oh, there's a comet coming down and whatever, and like you only hear about the comet once in the story, and then you go through the whole story, and like maybe your two heroes and the hero and the villain are fighting, and then out of nowhere the comet comes down and smashes the villain, and they were like, oh, foreshadowing, they foreshadowed the freaking comet. And I'm like, that was shitty. Like, the comet should have had a bigger presence in the story. Like, that comet, like, we should have saw the whole, like, everybody's trying to live their final days because this comet is coming to destroy the Earth, you know what I mean? But not a lot of stories do that. They just put this one element in there, and they want you to forget about it. They want you to forget that element was not there, or like, oh, I mentioned it, oh, you didn't see the twist. And they use it for a twist, kind of thing. And that's what I Want to Eat Your Pancreas does here. And this is the biggest thing I didn't like about it, is early on in the story, they mention that there's a serial killer, that there's somebody going around killing young women. And I saw that, and I'm like, that's how she dies, isn't it? Like, that's the first thing I thought about when I heard about the serial killer. I was like, that she doesn't die from her pancreas, she dies from that. They don't really mention him ever again. I don't know if he's like brought up like one more time, like in a newspaper or something throughout the story, but it's not a fixture in the story. I think if you're going to do something like that, it should be in the background. Like, you should literally write it in there. Like, everybody should be talking about it. If they're taking a train, somebody should be like, oh man, that serial killer got another victim. And like, it should be ever present throughout the story, just in the background. It doesn't need to be like, I don't know. I think it just needs to have a presence there. Maybe even the person, one of your characters, runs into this serial killer somehow. And unfortunately, I think they're like, well, if you do that, obviously that is setting you up for that, and people would know. Yes, I do think that. Like, I do think if you do hint at it more, people will know. But at least at the same time, I think it's better than just mentioning it once and then, oh yeah, remember that serial killer? Well, that's how she died. So yeah, what ends up happening is both of the characters start getting into the maybe lovey-dovey phase, and you don't know if there's going to be more there. But they're just really good friends, and they're supposed to go on another trip. They go on one trip, and I think they're about to go on another trip, or they're going to go somewhere fun that, the girl always wanted to visit. And the boy's actually excited to actually go and do this. Like, he's finally come out of his shell, and he's like, wow. And I think he texts her, because it builds around the story of the title, like, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. Because I forget, there's like some symbolism there, like, I think they talk about like old tribes or somebody used to eat pancreases to cure a disease or something like that. I think that's kind of like, I forget it. I read it a while back. But so I'm kind of foggy on some of the details. But yeah, the boy is essentially, he's excited for this, and his friend never shows up. She never shows up, and he's like, oh my god, like, did something happen, whatever. And he finds out later that the reason she never showed up is because she came across a serial killer, and he stabbed her, and she died from that. So she doesn't die from the thing that the whole book is about. My dog making noise. Again, sorry. She doesn't die from the issue in the story. She dies from a serial killer. And so that's like the twist of the story, is that, I think there is like an underlying symbolism there, which I think is good, that even if you have a disease that you think is going to take your life earlier than you want it to, your life can still end quicker than you expected. And that's kind of what happens here, right? Like, she was trying to live her life to the fullest, and she still died earlier than she thought she was. And, you know, there is like a kind of a happy ending towards it. Like, you know, he does build more friendships with some of her other friends, and there is like, she left a lot of notes behind for him, and he's able to read them at the very end, because he goes and visits her at, and his mom, I think her mom gives him the notebook that she was writing in and stuff like that. So, you know, it's a really nice story. But man, I don't think I've ever read a story that like made me feel a type of way like this one did. And it's not because the story was amazing or anything like that. It's just because it was tied to my anxiety and something that I constantly deal with. But again, it's still a nice message, right? Because I live, you know, I live in this fear of this health anxiety, which I do think I'm improving. I think it's been improving since I've been doing these Vita vlogs, to be honest. Maybe just having something to do, maybe, you know, worrying about making a vlog is better than worrying about my health, which I think is great. And I'm still continuing to try to live a healthy lifestyle and all that jazz. But I think the message was a good one to read as someone who suffers from health anxiety and stuff like that, because I'm not, you know, just like her. She was trying to live her best life, and she knew she was on borrowed time, and then she got even that time cut short. So it's just kind of like, you should really live life the best you can every single day. Like, you should be happy that you get it tomorrow. If you do wake up and you're like, oh shit, you know, you should be happy, because tomorrow is not promised, and that's kind of the vibe. But again, the story is great. I thought it was cool. I just wanted to randomly talk about it. This is a video I was going to make a long time ago when I originally read this. But, you know, I figured a perfect time to do it during Vita. Like, I kind of like just talking about books and rambling about them. So yeah, this is the book that terrified me. I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. It sent me down a fucking research rabbit hole and made me think I had pancreatic issues. So yeah, sorry to anybody out there that probably does have pancreas issues and watches this video and be like, pfft. And if I said anything wrong about, you know, pancreatic stuff, let me know. I'm always down to be corrected, but that's how crazy my brain is when it comes to these kind of things. And I wish you all the best in your health. But yeah, if you want a recommendation for a decent book, go watch or go read I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. And yeah, I'll see you in the next Vita vlog.